I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:05 p.m. Mrs. DiCarlo, can I please have a roll call?
Mrs. Brooks? Here. Mrs. Codelaru? Here. Mrs. Mezek?
Here.
Mrs. Shields?
Here.
Mrs. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Thomasini?
Here.
Mrs. Halborg?
Here.
We have a quorum.
The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act was passed to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice to attend the meeting of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed and acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Rockaway Township Board of Education has caused notice of the date, time, and place of said meetings to be published in the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and posted on the school district website. Does any board member wish to object to the conduct of the meeting for the purpose stated in the notice? Thank you. Can I have a motion to waive the Pledge of Allegiance?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Thomasini first, Mrs. Brooks second. Can I please have a show of hands? Thank you. Can I please have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Let it be noted at 6:06 p.m. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Take your time.
I have a cord with me in case I need for my laptop, but I don't know if it's gonna be long enough to get me from the table to the outside.
It has to come back.
No, yes, so what it is, don't we have to do a motion
Okay.
to bring it back to the table? And then this one would
Thank you, I
actually be another
appreciate it.
motion to it. Or is it by putting in this on?
Well, you're going to satisfy your requirement to approve this motion by having it on your agenda.
Correct.
The motion to bring, yeah, you have to vote on it.
Right.
You have to vote on it. If you feel that you need a motion to bring it back, I don't know that you need that because it's somewhat duplicative because it appeared on your next agenda.
Correct, but I mean, because we didn't say motion to table to the next meeting, it implies indefinitely. So I would think that we would have to bring it back from an indefinite date.
By the letter of the law, you would, but you're actually doing exactly what the law requires, which is you're bringing it back from the table at the very next meeting of the organization.
Okay.
So as a result,
So then we don't need to.
I wouldn't get, if however, this didn't appear on your agenda,
Mhm.
you would have to address it.
Right.
So that's where you and I think, are on the same page.
Mhm.
Like, if this didn't appear here,
Okay.
and you were gonna
And
vote.
that's where my gray area was, because I was like, okay, he is on the next agenda, but.
Yeah, no, so you're following the law, so that's great. If it didn't appear, I would then make a recommendation to you to say that you tabled the resolution at the last meeting. You should make a motion requiring
Correct.
this motion come back exactly as it was written,
Mhm.
either during the meeting from the floor or at another meeting, but it has to come back as it was written in the prior meeting. So
Correct.
that's when you table it, it has to come back as it was prepared.
Mhm.
So this is like, you're like in Robert's Rules 401 class here. But I would tell you that the fact that it came back exactly as it was written,
Right.
you do not have a violation of Robert's Rules, nor do you have a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act.
Okay.
All right?
I was like,
No, yeah, but your head is in the right spot.
This work, like a power strip, she's putting it, or just putting it on the wall here.
Heads up, all audio is picked up. Next to the nurse's stand. 4 in the waiting room. 4 in the waiting room.
4 in the waiting room?
Now 5.
I just want to make sure. Keep track. Ready? All right, a motion to come out of closed.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Shields and Mr. Thompson. By show of hands. Can everyone please stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. Good evening, everyone. I know that there were a few emails regarding our sound quality over the last couple of meetings. I just wanted to note that we have several upgrades to our system. We have extra microphones, and each board member has their own microphone to speak directly in, and I'm hoping this will improve the sound quality. And we've also adjusted our camera system. So I'm hoping that will deliver a better optic as we try to be fiscally responsible to meet that need. And hopefully this will be our last meeting where we don't have public present. It is our hope to have the public in our September meeting, pending any changes from the governor. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. I don't want to promise that, but that's our goal, and that's what we'd like to do. We'd like to see everyone in person. With that, we have several presentations. Before we have public discussion, we have our engineer, and also Dr. Tanamian has a presentation. So we'd like to begin.
Yes, thank you, President Hillborg. I'd like to start by we've invited to join us tonight, one of the lead engineers from Land Associates, Tom Hard, to come on up. And Tom, sorry if I messed Mr. last name there. But if you wouldn't mind just sharing, we invited Tom into our district back in early August to assess our HVAC systems, and he's going to share some of his findings. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. My name is Tom Whitmore, Land Associates, I'm one of the principals of the company, head of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, engineering divisions. We are the architect of record, and we're good now? Okay. In late July, early August, we were asked to come out and inspect all the systems in all the districts. We took a walk through every school, every classroom, the central office, just to do an analysis of the existing HVAC systems as it relates to all the requirements for reopening the school, recommendations for filtration, ventilation, and things of that nature. As I stated, we had gone through every one of the schools, just about room by room, typical classrooms, every other individual space throughout the district. Did a full analysis on every space, every room, ran through with your head of HVAC, took a look at, you have a building automation system, ran through that and see the controllability of the system. And as it relates to the DOE recommendations for reopening schools, very high level response is that everything in the system, everything in the school district is operating as intended, as designed. You are moving the air as intended. You're bringing in fresh air. You're ventilating. Your filtration in every system is the required MERV 8. Some spaces have a higher 10 or 11. But every system, every space is operating as intended. The district's it's very nice. You have a full building automation system in every one of your schools except for the one school, Dennis O'Brien. And that allows you to make adjustments quick on the fly and remotely from any web-enabled device to adjust the amount of fresh air coming into the spaces, see if there's any issues or alarms. So what we were tasked to do was go through and see what we can do to improve above that baseline in terms of what the CDC, the World Health Organization, ASHRAE recommends for the reopening. So some of the recommendations that have been put out there have been to increase the amount of fresh air that you can bring into a space. So what that does is help dilute any pathogens in the air. Operate your system 24/7, things like that, just to kind of help move air into space, bring fresh air, turn that air over into space. So what we're doing is every piece of equipment that moves air into space does bring in fresh air to a minimum set point. And we saw on your control system, you're able to increase that. And our recommendation here, you have air conditioning in a lot of space, but the recommendation is to bring in as much fresh air as possible. So there's a set point of whatever the percentage is. We're telling you to increase that as much as possible without having an issue with the temperature and humidity in the space. Fortunately, you have air conditioning in a lot of the classrooms and a lot of the other spaces, which is a nice add, but we've got to keep that temperature and humidity between certain set points of 70 to 75 and the humidity between 40 to 60. So we're going to increase that outside air as much as possible while maintaining those two set points. Now, again, being that you have a building automation system, we're able to make these changes to the fresh air, quickly and easily. You can also run your system 24 hours, as I stated. So typically at the end of a day, when everybody leaves the building, fresh air closes, buildings slow down or shut off completely. We're going to tell you to turn that and run that system 24 hours to keep fresh air moving into space, turning the air over, diluting any pathogens that might be in the air. Any exhaust systems are going to run 24/7. There's what else we have? Like I said, your filtration that you have in this building is standard. Increasing that, I know there's been recommendations to go up to MERV 13 or higher. It's not practical on many systems outside of your district. You're not alone. Most schools and most equipment can't accept above that MERV 8 level without having an impact on the airflow. So it goes against that first statement of bringing in as much air, moving as much air as possible, which is great. But if you increase your filtration without taking a look at your systems, you can have a negative effect on that. And we inspected all the systems here. Most of the classroom units cannot accept above that level. Some of the larger units we did take a look at already have higher than MERV 8, higher than baseline. So you have a higher efficiency of filtration there. Some of the other recommendations is air purification, further cleaning the air in the spaces. Technologies such as UVC or bipolar ionization help clean and treat the air and kill pathogens, bacteria in the air. The one school at Dwyer, I know, has an interesting classroom open floor plan. We went forward and did a design over there to add some bipolar ionization to treat the air that is in the space. The bipolar ionization that kills viruses, mold, fungus, bacteria, in addition to reducing allergens and killing VOCs and odors in the space. So you have that additional level of air purification at Dwyer, where, like I said, you have a very wide open floor plan and there's no separation from class to class. And again, it's every space we've been working with your HVAC techs and increasing outside air. I believe they've already started taking that step in addition to running systems 24 hours to help add as much fresh air to the space as possible.
Okay, Tom, thank you. I'm now going to follow Tom with a brief presentation of my own, so I'll be going to the podium, and I'd ask Boris if you could pull my presentation up. Thank you. Boris, thank you. Good evening, Rockaway Township. It's great to be with you again tonight. I wanted to begin my presentation by just first acknowledging, I know whether it's teachers, staff, our students, families out there, there's a lot of anxiousness about the reopening of our schools come September 8th. And I want to acknowledge that, and please know that it's informed our work over these last several months to make sure we're doing everything we possibly can to ensure for a reopening of our schools safely. To that end, I'm very pleased to report tonight that as of tonight, we remain on track for implementing our hybrid model come September 8th. And for that, I'd like to just again acknowledge and thank from the board members, all of our members of our leadership team for working together to put us on track for that. Tonight, I want to spend a few moments highlighting some key aspects of our reopening plan. And first and foremost, if you could go to the first slide for me, B-Bars, thank you. First and foremost, I want to focus on the fact that for us to not only reopen our schools, but keep them safe throughout the school year, it's going to require even a stronger partnership between our schools and our families. It's going to require daily communication. It's going to be critical for us to do that to keep everybody safe. And so I ask you tonight, for our families and staff home watching tonight, that you begin to think about and reflect on how preparation for school on a daily basis is going to need to be different. There are also some things I'd like to ask you to do before we officially get to September 8th. And so if we could go to the next slide, B-Bars, please. I want to highlight 4 keys to our reopening plan that are really the pillars of our safety plan, if you would. First, mandatory masks for everyone. Students will not be allowed on the bus without a mask. If you leave your house in the morning and you forgot your mask, please continue to the bus stop. There will be masks on the bus to give to the student. But students that come and refuse to wear a mask will not be allowed on our buses. Staff, visitors, students coming in our school, masks are mandatory. They are required. I ask that you please, families at home, please begin having these conversations with your students. Please start building up their mask endurance. We will be doing mask breaks throughout the day for the students that are in person, but please understand masks are mandatory for all of our schools and all of our buses. And then second, I'm sure we all now over these last several months have heard so much about the importance of social distancing, and that will apply in our schools as well. You'll see when you come back to our schools, you'll see new signage in our schools emphasizing the importance of the social distancing and maintaining social distancing as often as possible. And then third, the washing of the hands, the good hygiene. I'm here tonight to tell the community that every classroom is being installed with a hand sanitizer. We are expecting students as they come into the classroom to use hand sanitizers, as they exit the classroom to use the hand sanitizers, and throughout the day, the bathrooms and so on. Constantly washing our hands and using hand sanitizers is critically part of keeping everyone safe, and it's practicing good hygiene. And so again, these are the types of things we need you talking about in the homes and the build up to opening our schools on September 8th. And then lastly, we're routinely cleaning and disinfecting our buildings. The details of these routines are in the overall plan that's on our website. However, there are a couple of things I want to highlight for the community, one in particular, because some may be wondering, how are these new routines going to be put in place and maintained with the same type of staffing structure? Well, one significant shift that we're implementing for September is in every school, we've had at least 3 custodial shifts. Pre-pandemic, we had a 7 to 3 shift, and then 2 3 to 11 shifts, so 2 night shifts. We are going to shift one of those night shifts to start earlier and to go from 11 to 8. That means we're going to have double the capacity of custodians in our buildings during the majority of the school day. And there's new routines that have already been shared with them, and new training this summer that's already been shared with them as well, to help with the cleaning and maintaining the sanitation of our buildings throughout the school day. Next slide, if I could, B-Bars. The next key to us not only reopening our schools successfully, but staying reopened successfully is communication. And one of the main strategies that we'll be deploying is the use of this new app. You can tonight go into the App Store, go into whichever App Store of your choice, and download this app. Please know it's not fully built out yet. By the middle to the end of next week, all of the information will be updated. But if you'd like to get it on your phone now, we encourage you to do so. And I'm encouraging both families and our staff members to please get this app and add it to your phone. It's going to be a key way that we communicate with everyone on a daily basis. And so to that end, if we go to the next slide, B-Bars. Here, there's specific instructions for how you can turn on notifications. And I would ask you to please strongly consider doing that so that blasts that we send out go right to your phone right away. In today's world, most of us get our information first from our phones. And so by mobilizing this app, having it on your phone, you're going to get the most up-to-date information from us on a daily basis. So please, this presentation will be on our website at some point early tomorrow. So this instruction will be available to you there. We will be sending out blasts throughout the next week into this coming school year with this information. But I did want to highlight tonight, this app, alongside the launch of a new website on September 1st, is a key upgrade to our district's ability to communicate effectively with the community. And it's something I thought important to highlight. Next, in terms of the communication, something more specific, Bars, if we can move to the next slide, please. Thank you. We are asking for everyone, staff and families, to complete daily screenings and daily checks. And you can access them, you will be able to access them through that app. This is a sample of a family screening. There's essentially 3 parts to it. The first part you see here on my presentation is Section A. And we're asking on a daily basis to verify that you're symptom-free here. And for Section A, if you have 2 or more of these symptoms, we're asking and expecting you to keep your child home that day. And if we go to the next slide, Bars, for Section B, please. Section B, these are more severe symptoms. And if any one of these symptoms is shown in the home, again, we're asking and expecting you to keep your child home that day. We are asking our nurses, I hope you saw the letter from the nurses that went out last week, all of our teachers, all of our staff, to be vigilant about monitoring for student health. It's the way we keep everybody safe. And these daily screeners will be checked as part of our morning routines by office staff and our school nurses. And then they'll make the rounds to determine if anyone has not completed their screening. It will become an inconvenience. It will become an inconvenience for teachers. It will become an inconvenience for families of students who did their screenings if families don't do these screenings. It's going to interrupt instruction. It's going to take time out of the day. And so please, I implore you now to begin to think about systems in your home to make sure that you can implement these things daily and efficiently before your child leaves for school. And then there is a third section for the family screener. One more, there we go, thank you. And this is just verifying on a daily basis the close contact to potential exposure has not occurred. So those are the 3 essential steps to the family screener I wanted to preview with the community tonight. They're a vital aspect of this work. You're going to see more and more of us talking about checklists to keep people and keep everyone safe. Checklists are a proven strategy for increasing supervision and tightening protocols. And so they may be an inconvenience, I understand that, but they are something that we are prioritizing and requiring of everyone to do and to do on a daily basis. The next slide, I want to spend just a moment talking about an aspect of our plan that we have certainly gotten some questions about, and give a little bit of background about some of the rationale behind that. As many of you have heard from other districts, there are other districts who have chosen a half-day model, where we went with a full-day model at 50% capacity. We felt the 50% capacity was an extremely important point to make sure social distancing can be kept in place. At the same time, we also felt the full-day program was important for several reasons. One, much of the guidance that we continue to see about the importance of opening up schools for our students is to get some normalcy back into their lives, routines and structures, keeping them safe. And that's so important. And a half day in and of itself doesn't really meet that standard. The full day does get back some of that normalcy for our students. It also, for our teachers, puts them in a position where they'll experience unprecedented small class sizes. And while no one would wish a pandemic on anyone, the idea that this pandemic has created conditions for small class sizes may very well be how we successfully remediate the learning loss that we anticipate students have experienced over the last 6 months. And so by having that full day, we want to make sure we're leveraging all of those instructional minutes, all of those resources to accelerate student learning in these small class size settings. And then third, the food service is a question we took and will continue to take very seriously. We have restructured and will continue to monitor very closely providing lunches safely for our students. They're in elementary schools, they'll be in the classroom. And in Copeland, The sizes are being reduced significantly and new furniture being brought into the cafeteria, so people will be sitting at individual desks 6 feet apart. These are ways that we feel confident we can do and serve the lunch properly and safely, and then still have that full school day for our students. And if you haven't yet seen, you should be on the lookout for a letter from our food service program that talks about the new way we've automated ordering school lunches. So it's completely contact-free. So if you haven't yet seen that and you know it's something you're going to want to do, please reach out to central office staff or to a principal in the district. Moving along, if I could to the next slide, Igor, thank you. What's next? September 1st at 1 p.m., we will, and through Genesis, share the school schedules, and they'll be released there. Please know, as you prepare to go in there on September 1st, there are other forms that we're going to need you to complete before you get to the school schedules, but know that's the next sort of big sharing of information, and we are on track to have that ready for September 1st. I already spoke about the shift of custodial schedules. Third, Chromebook requests. Some of you may be wondering, what about if I need a Chromebook? We're accepting requests and we're going to fulfill as many as possible, but I also, in partnership with the community, need to ask you to please only make a request if the need is great. I need you to understand that across the world, the demand for Chromebooks has been unprecedented in these last few months. An order we placed in the spring has been delayed and continues to be delayed. We're now looking at the end of October, early November for that delivery. In the meantime, we still have an inventory, and our team has been vigilant about building up our inventory. But if you're a family that is not in dire need of a Chromebook and you're okay with your current resources, I ask that you please wait. To that end, for those who are moving into 6th grade, you may be wondering, well, we know that the one-to-one Chromebook initiative is in place. When will I get my brand new Chromebook? That is part of the delivery that will be coming early November. That being said, we have an inventory. If there is a rising 5th grader coming into 6th grade who is still in need of a Chromebook, there will be a distribution night on September 3rd. However, I need to ask, please, for your partnership on this. If you're a 5th grader or a 5th grade family who received a Chromebook back in the spring when we first launched our OID model, and that's still functioning, we ask that you do not take another one, that you continue to use that Chromebook. We need to work together here to make sure our resources are used as efficiently as possible. So please, I thank you in advance for your partnership on that. And then lastly, I know many of you, as of tonight, 16% of our students enrolled in our district have chosen the full virtual model. And many of you are wondering about what's next with that. And that information is coming. Once our teachers return and we start working with them through the month of September, we will be providing more guidance around what that looks like on a daily basis. Please know we're working on that, but we also don't want to just design that without working in collaboration with our teachers, which we'll be doing on the first day that they return. And then the next slide, which is my last slide, I just wanted to speak to some other key priorities. We are providing and have throughout the month of October additional training and support for our staff, which has included a focus on social and emotional supports for them. For families, please know as your students return to our schools, their social and emotional development and well-being remains top priority for us, and that is a top priority for all of our principals. Please understand, visitor restrictions are going to be in place and that have never been in place before. Visitors will have to be scheduled ahead of time for our schools, and we have installed boxes outside all of our schools. So in the event you need to bring something to the school that to be dropped off, you will not need to enter the school, you'll be putting it into the box. And please, I ask your understanding and empathy for families out there, understanding that we're going to be needing to do things more virtually, even though our schools are still reopened. So whether it's PTA meetings happening outside or virtually, back to school nights happening virtually, those are the types of shifts in our programming that are still going to be underway as we prepare to reopen our schools on September 8th. And then lastly, 2 more points I just want to share with everyone. It's the idea that every day is going to be a daily assessment. Just because we open on September 8th doesn't mean we're going to have different decisions to make on September 9th or the following week. And it's really that mindset that the entire leadership team is embracing to understand that's how we serve the community best, being flexible and understanding that our commitment to you is to maintain ongoing and regular communication and being fully transparent with you. And that's not going to just happen on September 8th. It's going to happen every single day while we're dealing with this pandemic and beyond.
So please just understand that the daily screeners, daily assessments are part of our new normal. And we look for your partnership, and candidly, we need your support on that. And then lastly, I started with some brief acknowledgments, but let me end with some more detailed ones. To our teachers, I want to thank you. And again, I know there's anxiety and nervousness out there and even some fear, but we know you're working to get back here, and thank you. Thank you for your professionalism throughout the summer, throughout this very challenging time. You continue to set yourself a standard above what we see happening in some other places. So thank you for that. And in particular, I want to acknowledge Brian Adams and Tara Van Orton, your co-presidents of the RTEA. Their partnership and their professionalism these last several months has been a real asset to our community and to our district. We haven't always agreed, but it's always been professional, and they've always and continue to ask the right questions. And so thank you for that to both Brian and Tara. To our principals, I wouldn't be able to stand in front of you tonight with the comments I have about our ability to reopen our schools safely, if not for the talent of our principals. Over the course of my career, I've never had the privilege to work alongside such talented school leaders who care so deeply about their teachers and their students. They have been working tirelessly this summer to make sure their buildings are ready for you all. And so I want to thank them. I'd also like to thank our central office leadership team, who's worked in partnership with those principals to get things in place, to get our buildings ready. It's been a very challenging time, but also quite frankly inspiring time to see these leaders come together around the same set of core values to prepare our schools to reopen safely. So thank you to our leadership team. And then lastly, to our board, I'd like to thank and acknowledge our board. Since the launch of our OID model and the mandatory school closings through the summer and preparing for reopening, they have been nothing but supportive and extremely engaged in the process. And I just want to acknowledge and thank them for their service. It's a tireless and oftentimes thankless job, but it's a critical one, and one that they're doing well, serving our community well during this challenging time. That concludes my presentation. I'm now going to return to my seat, and I believe we're going to open up for public comment, where both Tom and myself will be here and others to take questions that the public may have. Okay, thank you for your time tonight.
No, it's not. Okay. Thank you for the presentations. Before we open up to public comment, I know we have several people in the waiting room. And I just want to remind those that come on to please state your name. You had to state your name and address in order to get the login to the waiting room. But please state at least your name so that we know who we're speaking to. And just to keep in mind that this is not a question and answer. We'll try our best to work to make sure you get your answers. But we want to try to keep this to the 3-minute presentation so that everybody gets a chance to, in a reasonable amount of time, to say what you'd like to say, right, before that happens. Okay. During the course of the board meeting, the Rockaway Township Board of Education offers members of the public an opportunity to address issues regarding the operations of the Rockaway Township Public Schools. The board reminds those individuals who take this opportunity to identify themselves by name and address, to limit their comments to items listed on the agenda or items directly related to the operations of the school district. Issues raised by members of the public may or may not be responded to by the board. All comments will be considered and the response will be forthcoming. If and when appropriate, the board asks that all members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding students and employees of the board are discouraged and will not be responded to by the board. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey. The board bears no responsibility nor will be liable for any comments made by the members of the public. Members of the public should consider their comments in light of the legal rights of those affected or identified in the comments and be aware that they are legally responsible and liable for their comments. With that, can I please have a motion to open to the public? Someone. Second. Mrs. Carlo. And is it Mrs. Smith? Can I have a show of hands? Thank you. Also a reminder, there is a delay, a few second delay when we're speaking, so those that are in the waiting room, please make sure you turn off the volume for the live stream so we don't get the delay. Okay, thank you. How many?
Current waiting room is 3.
We have 3? Okay, thank you.
We'll need to file 10.
Sure, turn off the volume for the live stream so we don't get the delay. Okay, thank you. How many?
Current waiting room.
We have 3? Okay, thank you. Hello. Welcome.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Am I a go?
Yes, as long as the stream is muted, you're good to go.
All right, hang on. I'm muting my other device here. Okay. Hi. Good evening, everybody. My name is April Kurlock. I'm at 33 Mount Hope Road, Rockaway, 07866. I just wanted to say. Okay. I just wanted to say that after reviewing the 74 page plan that was put out, as well as seeing the presentation tonight, there was Dr. Tamanian was absolutely correct that, you know, there is fear, there is concern, but I do feel that I feel more comfortable. I actually feel more like I may consider sending her to school. I did sign up for my daughter to go to the all, not the all virtual, the 2 days, you know, a week. And I also looked at the YMCA, and it looks like there are 10-to-1 cohorts. I'm wondering also if those cohorts also kind of try to mirror what classes the kids are assigned to in school, you know, again, trying to minimize contact. So that's just one, you know, one question that I have regarding the YMCA cohorts. The other question that I have regarding the schools, I still have concerns about, you know, how lunch is going to be handled, you know, with people obviously having to take masks off to eat and things like that. And I do think that, you know, again, there's still some things you guys have evolving, but I actually feel that a lot of my concerns have been addressed, especially with the ventilation. And I think that that's fantastic. So as far as, you know, that kind of stuff goes, I just wanted to say that I feel a lot of my concerns, you know, have been mitigated at this point. And I'm still, you know, still hesitant. Within that plan, though, there is a 5-day wait. So, for instance, what if I was exposed to COVID, or my daughter was, or, you know, I felt that the national numbers were increasing? It looks like there's a 5-day wait to have your child get in on the all virtual. So, for instance, if my child had to be out that day because maybe we had an exposure, or I thought she was sick for any reason, would we lose that school day waiting for the 5 days, you know, to send her back? So that's just something I'm just curious about. I'm hoping that the all virtual model can also be made available, you know, sooner, so that she would be able to participate from home, you know, especially if, you know, we didn't have any symptoms of COVID, but maybe we had an exposure. And so I would like that flexibility as well. And I don't know if that's something that can be built in. And then lastly, I have a Chromebook from when my daughter was, you know, given one, because we did need one at the time, because we thought it would interface better, but the internet was locked out. And because we had other devices, we didn't want to take up anyone else's time and, you know, and be selfish with the resources, because we had other resources. I don't think we need the Chromebook. So will we be able to turn that in, and for me to get a receipt saying that I did turn it in, you know, just so that someone else, you know, the internet on it can be turned on, any updates to it, and maybe reissued to someone who may need it. And those are all the comments I have. And thank you very much. I appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Thank you, Madam President, may I just make a few comments?
Please.
Thank you. So thank you for your comments. Specific to the lunch return, I think at this point, since there's so many nuances between each school, I would really recommend reaching out to Principal Marathon. I believe you said you're a DBO.
I'm getting an echo or like a feedback loop.
Specific to your lunch concerns, if you'd like to learn more about that. And on the Lions Day piece, we are in conversations with them about trying to manage the cohorts differently. And so I'll pass along that feedback to them. The 5-day a week is more of a sort of 5 days at the most for us to make the official switch. And it's in response to where other districts are actually saying you have to make a decision now for the entire marking period. We're trying to create as much flexibility for our families to either select into the full virtual model, or if they're in it and they want to come back, you can come back. In most cases, we'll be able to make that switch in 24 to 48 hours, but because sometimes you have to account for class size changes, we wanted to give ourselves at least 5 days there, which is, from what I'm seeing out there, better than more traditional approaches being taken. And then on the Chromebook, yes, please, we'd love to take it back. You can either bring it to central office where we have sanitation procedures in place, or you can wait for school to open and you can bring it back to DBO. But we happily take it back and certainly record that you returned it as well. So thank you. And any other questions, feel free to reach out to me directly as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. I have a couple other questions, but I'll reach out to you separately. Thank you.
Are you ready for the next?
Yes.
Welcome.
We're getting you.
Is Tara in here as well?
You're good to go, Brian. Oh, sorry.
Perfect.
Welcome.
Good evening. We are Brian Adams and Tara Van Orden, co-presidents of the Rockaway Township Education Association. Our address tonight pertains to the health and safety of our staff and students. As you know, we are in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. We have been working throughout the spring and summer discussing and planning for the reopening of schools. More recently, our members, along with community members, have been working at the school level. We held Q&A seminars with staff and central office administration this summer. We have met weekly and sometimes many times a week with Dr. Turnamian to discuss issues that have arisen. Dr. Turnamian has been open and honest throughout the process. We are here tonight to shed light on outstanding issues that have not been resolved and need to be addressed before opening of schools to ensure the safety of the children of Rockaway Township and the safety of our members. After reviewing the district's plan, we surveyed our members. Out of 263 responses, 88% responded they were concerned about the reopening of schools.
One of the major points of concern is lunch being eaten at school. This decision requires students to take off their masks for a period of time, which increases the transmission rate. For the elementary schools, this means that students will be eating in their classrooms where they are already spending the predominant amount of time during the day. Copeland students will be sitting in the very area you are seated in with no windows. Currently, the state does not allow indoor dining to occur without two open air walls. At a recent press conference, Governor Murphy said airflow is a constant concern. This is why we've been much more forthright in opening outdoor activities. Allowing diners to sit maskless for an extended period of time in a restaurant where the air conditioning unit could silently spread coronavirus is a risk we cannot yet take. Yet we are taking the risk with students in our schools in a few short days. Is it safe or responsible to have students eat maskless indoors? After students are done eating in their classrooms, the district does not have an adequate amount of custodial staff to clean all of the spaces, further compounding this issue. And at the middle school, the students are changing classes every 30 to 50 minutes. This district is relying upon the teaching staff and the staff assistants to clean these spaces quickly and properly, while also supervising the students to ensure their safety and to maintain social distancing, and protecting our students with life-threatening food allergies. We have all seen the picture of students crowding in the hallways while waiting to enter classrooms. We do not want this in Rockaway Township. At last count, 75% of the districts in Mars County have deemed this an unnecessary risk and will be closing half days, including Mars Hills Regional District, Denville, and Rockaway Borough Schools, with whom our reopening plans were created in conjunction with.
Another concern are the ventilation systems in our facilities. Contrary to assertions online, district ventilation units have not been updated, with the exception of Stony Brook and Birchwood specifically, and Dwyer slated to get bipolar ionization technology. We recently met with Mr. Weigard, the district's engineer, who said we were beyond other districts around the state because we have remote access and can change the amount of airflow into a classroom. But most concerning is that the district's univent systems are unable to accommodate the MERV 13 filters that are recommended by the CDC and ASHRAE, as documented on the district's plan on page 56. It states, unit ventilators and ductless AC systems cannot accommodate higher filter efficiency. If the district were to place these filters in our system, it would essentially choke off the system from necessary outside air. With these MERV 8 and MERV 10 filters, there is no filtration with respect to the COVID virus done in our classrooms to protect students and staff from the virus, allowing it to propagate in the air. Ultimately, our district's ventilation system is not able to provide the necessary filtration according to the CDC to protect students and staff from the virus. Is this inadequacy really risk that we are willing to take? Finally, the district's unwillingness to grant accommodations for telework for those who are at high risk due to pre-existing conditions as identified by the CDC and the Department of Health. While the district has the right to decide what accommodations are reasonable, they should also understand that by not granting these requests, already medically fragile staff will be putting themselves at greater risk. Sure, staff can take leaves of absences, but our staff members want to use that as a last resort. Our staff members take pride in the work that they do each and every day for the children of the district. When substitute teachers are at a premium and in limited supply around the state, we wonder how the district will find folks with the highly specialized skills needed on such short notice. Furthermore, when surrounding districts pay substitutes better than Rockaway Township, are we going to get what our students deserve, or will the district be forced to cancel the special classes for the children, depriving them of art and music and physical education? Or more concerning, combining classes disregarding social distancing mandates. Last March, when our online instructional days started, we hit the ground running. We had the tools and the know-how to handle this unprecedented time. The district was proactive in supporting students affected by the digital divide and ensuring that all students access to the internet. Virtually, we were there every day going live with our students, supporting their instructional and their emotional needs. Our staff organized car parades for our little ones. We celebrated our graduates at a distance when they drove by us. We were overwhelmed with community support. Some people said that we went above and beyond. We disagree. This is what we do on a daily basis. We do it every day. We want to teach the students of Rockaway Township. However, it needs to be done safely.
The plans created around the state have attempted to take into account many possibilities, but few realities. The realities that we as educators see every day in our classrooms and our schools. The reality that if 2 people contract the virus in the same class, that class must quarantine. And if 2 people contract the virus in different classes, the school must quarantine. That is the reality. The concerns we outlined above can be rectified. Plans can be put into place that could provide safer alternatives when we reopen. Our position is that it is the responsibility of the board to deal with the issues outlined by the association this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Dr. Knapp, would you like to respond to?
None. Jim, I will just say that the board agenda tonight does include a raise for subs. So we are raising the sub rate to be competitive with the region. And then the other issues you've raised, as I indicated earlier, we've been in conversation about and will continue to be in conversation about. There are some areas where we just agree to disagree, candidly. The full and half day piece, you did conveniently leave out that morning is also full day. And so, it's, 50% of the feeding districts into the high school regional are a full day, and the other 50% are half day. So I just want to highlight that. And in terms of the concern around ventilation, I believe the presentation that Tom shared tonight highlighted that we are actually well ahead of most districts in the state and have systems that are functioning to ensure proper temperature and proper humidity in all of our classrooms. Yeah, I think those are the main points you shared. And I look to continue to partner with you going forward.
May I ask a question? You said 236 responses came back to your survey to your staff. That was correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, how many in total did you send out?
How many surveys? It was a Google form that we used.
To how many members?
Well, hopefully we got all of our members, but 233 responded over that weekend.
How many members are there though?
How many are there? 450, 470?
Perfect, thank you.
If it's okay, Dr. Thompson, can I ask the engineer to address in the cafeterias, as it was mentioned, regarding ventilation?
Sure. John, did you hear the questions on it?
Yeah, so
Thank you.
that's the cafeteria ventilation. So two things. I'll start the filtration in the unit ventilators is an R8. It doesn't afford zero filtration. The statement was it was zero filtration on COVID. That's inaccurate. It's at least 20-25% filtration of COVID. The recommendation is going up to MERV 13. However, most systems can't accommodate that without serious airflow issues. The cafeteria here in Copeland is served by several systems, each of which, or two of which I believe, bring in fresh air. So even though there are no windows, you are bringing in fresh air. The dampers in every one of these pieces of equipment, you guys have a building automation system in every school except for one in the district. So you have a huge leg up on many other districts. We're working with a ton across the state in that you can quickly and easily just adjust the amount of fresh air you're bringing in through those systems remotely. So working with your HVAC techs in the district, you're able to increase the outside air up to 100% at any given time, weather permitting, indoor conditions permitting. So even though there are no windows in the space, you are able to fully ventilate with fresh air, fresh outdoor air, again, weather permitting, at any given time with a few clicks of a mouse on the system.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else left in the waiting room?
one person. Hello, you are online. If you can please mute the stream before proceeding.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. Ken Jennings, 47 Seminole Ave. Just want to say, first of all, appreciate what I've done with opening the schools. And also, I am glad that we are having somewhat back to normalcy. The question I have is, I know you mentioned in your remarks that I think you said it was 16% of the students chose to do virtual learning. My question is, if that number goes up or stays the same, we are choosing to send our kids back to school. Is it possible to increase the days they go back if the numbers increase with the kids staying home from school? Because I, myself, and my wife would rather our kids in school more than 2 days. You know, if we could do 3 or 4, it'd be great.
Clement, thank you. Thank you for being with us tonight. The number I did share earlier was, you're correct, the 60% across the entire district, and it's spread out actually quite even. If the number were to tweak up to 20% or 22, it wouldn't have the dramatic impact for us to then increase in person for a majority of students. If, however, for some reason it got upwards of 50%, we could take a hard look at that. It really just speaks to, again, in my earlier comments, I tried to highlight that the decisions we're going to be making are going to be daily assessments. And we do believe that the model we built has flexibility so that if the conditions change dramatically, we could shift either way. And so we will continue to monitor that. And if we find that we can bring more back safely, there's nothing more that we love to do than come October, begin to accelerate the reopening and have more days. But that'll be informed obviously by the pandemic, directives from the governor, and conditions in our current community. But certainly something we'll look at.
One more, thank you, appreciate for the response. One more question. What will be the cutoff date for that? In other words, will it be a gradual thing, or like you said, if it increases as the school year goes on, or is there a hard cutoff date?
There isn't a hard cutoff date, and that's really intentional. We want parents to be as comfortable as possible with every choice they've made. And if parents want to change their mind, we think that's well within their right. And so we believe the model we built gives us the flexibility to accommodate families who may start on September 8th and by September 15th feel uncomfortable for that reason and want to go full virtual. We can accommodate that really quickly. And the same is true on the other side. If the family starts full virtual and the weekend they want to start trying in person again, we'll be able to accommodate that pretty quickly. Flexibility in our planning has been a priority from the start. So and it will remain so.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else in the waiting room?
No.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank the IT department for assisting with our virtual guests tonight. They are IT people and not AV people, and trying very, very hard to make this work, make the optic work, given our constraints. So it's greatly appreciated. Thank you. That would be the end of public comment. So can I please have a motion to close public comment? So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Shields and Mr. Thompson. Can I just have a show of hands? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. First on the agenda is communications. Mrs. Carter, any additional communications? Okay, thank you so much. Next, we need to approve the minutes of our August 12th meeting. Can I please have a motion to approve the minutes? Someone, second, Mrs. Carlaro, and second, Mr. Tomasini. Is there any questions, comments, or discussion regarding our minutes? If not, please can I have a roll call?
Mrs.
Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordalaru?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak? Yes. Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomasini?
Yes.
Mrs. Halborg?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the curriculum report. Or did I skip? Did I skip?
Good evening, Rockaway Township. During the last week, we continued to clarify to our teachers the various types of instructional models that we plan to employ this year in our hybrid model. Discussions have been ongoing since last spring about our best practices in online teaching and learning, and we have recommended to our teachers that they use a continuum of methods to teach and monitor learning effectively. As always, several factors weigh on teachers and how they will deliver instruction. Technology access for students at home, student age and technical ability, availability of a caregiver to assist with access to learning, and student engagement. We have created a tiered system for our teachers to follow based upon the needs and abilities of their classes. Ideally, we would like our teachers to be live with students as often as possible, and we will provide clear guidance to our teachers as to how to achieve this. Our faculty is mobilized to meet these challenges and will continue to support the collaborative efforts of grade level and department level teams within schools and across schools through professional learning. As we move into the convocation next week and through the first weeks of school, we will take feedback from the community and our faculty to continue to create the best learning environments possible. Through a partnership with KDM Principal Stacy Wisniewski, our staff was fortunate enough to be invited to a workshop led by Michelle Dickinson, a passionate advocate for mental health and a TED speaker. This workshop was called Educator, Wellness, and Resilience. Teachers had the opportunity to engage in meaningful discussions about our positive experiences, concerns, and challenges, reflecting on our experience through the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the anticipation leading into this school year. The focus was on how resilience can be shaped by how we interpret adversities or what we tell ourselves about the adversities that we are facing. Understanding our own self-talk, routines, and beliefs, and shifting the way our brain interprets events and situations helps us gain more resilience in the face of ambiguity. And finally, this coming Wednesday, 1 week from today, will be our district's annual convocation, a 2-day event aimed at bringing staff back together and learning alongside one another. Faculty will engage in sessions led by their principals, by presenters from Ready Math, Dr. Pillay, Handle with Care training, restorative practices, and much discussion about procedures and processes for this school year. Convocation is a time for all of us to celebrate the beginning of another school year and share our expertise with one another, as well as a time to narrow our focus on the tasks at hand. We truly look forward to these 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Do you know how many teachers or staff took advantage of that workshop?
Over 35 signed up, and I believe there were over 30 in each of the 2 sessions. There was a session yesterday and a session today.
So like 60 each or?
Total,
So was it 2?
the total was about 33.
Okay, thank you.
But it was very well received. Almost all the comments and feedback I got were wonderful.
Excellent. If there are no other questions, we will go on to committee reports.
Operations. We did not meet yesterday. We pushed our meeting till, I'm going to say tomorrow, but it's really Friday. Feels like it's Friday, right? Friday at 10, we're going to take a project tour. Mrs. DiCarlo has arranged for us to get a small chariot. And we're going to go around and look at all the projects because we're in the home stretch and we're almost there. Myself and Mrs. Shields signed the bills yesterday, so we will recommend the approval of those. And she has a few notes written down so she can share them.
Oh, I was just saying it was exciting to see that Birchwood is getting some cool STEM items, some squishy circuits, and so hopefully all this will clear up so they can actually handle them in person without being nervous. And I will be a few minutes late on Friday. I have a staff meeting until 10, so I might be like 10:05. We'll forgive you, unless my boss, yes.
That's all we have. Okay, thank you.
Policy. The policy committee met on August 19th from 5:45 to 7:45 in the central office. In attendance were Dr. T, Christy Currilaroo, Aaron Tomasini, and myself. Some of the items that we reviewed were policy 3321, policy 4321, and also policy 2361, all of which have to do with acceptable use of computer networks and resources. They fall under the areas of programming, teaching, and support staff. We reviewed online learning guidelines related to district apps. We note that policy 2361 requires a hearing. It also requires staff member training, and that hearing Dr. T would like to do each year in September. We also included references. We went through the revision process and also discussed district implementation questions. In regards to some more policies we addressed, policy 3283, policy 4283, dealing with electronic communication between teaching staff members and students. They also fall under program teaching staff, support staff. Online learning and district apps were the reasons we were taking a look at these policies. In addition, we looked at policy 5516 to see if there were any additional tweaks in regards to online learning district apps. Some new policies that we addressed were policy 1648, the restart and recovery plan, which was still in the works. That policy alert is actually not yet out. It's identified as needed due to the current pandemic. And Dr. T has obviously been working on the plan document that went out to the community in August 14th. In addition, we discussed policy 1649, which is the Federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act. That policy alert did come out to 20 in June. We identified this as a need due to the current pandemic. We have received input from Mrs. DiCarlo because it involves paid, unpaid leave. And also Dr. Shanamian is requesting additional information, which will help us to finalize that policy. And finally, policy 7510, use of school facilities. This was recommended by the Operations Committee in response to the pandemic. They took a look at procedures, as did we, added in something about additional documentation, and we also included references in that as well. As you'll see on the agenda for later, we have policies that are up for first read. 3 of those policies were tabled in the last meeting. Those will be up. And then there will be 4 additional ones. Our upcoming meeting for policy is September 30th at 6:15 at Central Office.
Any questions? I have, and thank you. I have an education committee update. We met last week on the 19th in Central Office, and myself, Mrs. Mezek, Mrs. Smith, Dr. Shanamian, and Mr. Higgins. Several topics he addressed in his curriculum update, but a few highlights. We discussed the video conferencing regulation and policy, which I believe is on the agenda. One of the things that stands out from that I want to just bring light to is minds on, cameras on, masks on. It's right there for everyone needs to, that's the expectation. Once our kids are starting back in September, to have their masks on and their cameras on so that everybody can have full participation with the virtual part of it. There was the curriculum projects that were being worked on were music and PE. Basically, these groups need to learn how to work within our new world and new dynamic in the pandemic. So that's where their work is focused. We also had updates with our hybrid learning model. There are many changes for Google updates, and we are going to the enterprise version in October, which gives us a lot more options for our children and our teachers. And you also addressed the tier levels expectations for the different grade levels. We discussed the different PD that was this summer. It was voluntary, but it was well attended. And one of the takeaways from that was there was a great great exchange of information, not just more questions, a lot of sharing, which gives me the indicator as an educator that people are getting more comfortable in this environment, and the collaboration is there. So I have a lot of faith that things are going to be absolutely wonderful. The summer projects, we had worked on the RTI handbook, and updating that from our PCG recommendations. We also had the PDF curriculum support boxes they came in, so they're excited to start rotating them throughout the schools. And I believe that was your reference to before with the STEM, but that's a different set of boxes.
What Mrs. Shields had said?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all, yeah, there's tools like that were purchased for the.
Okay, cool. Kind of under the same category. Yes, I thought so. Thank you. And there's also updates to the math rollout as well as the contest in Pinel. So we have a lot of new things that are happening, programs that are rolling out, and it's an exciting time. And so all of the items that are on the agenda are recommended for board approval, and our next meeting will be on September 16th at 4 o'clock at central office. Any questions?
I just want to say, you touched on the instrumental programs and
Yes.
music. Ms. Fox here at Copeland sent out a wonderful letter to all the band, chorus, strings, folks, really outlining what it's going to look, what the music program will look like, and just very detailed and informative. So that's much appreciated.
Thank you, Chair. If there are no other committee, I believe we'll go on to board recommended board action with personnel. We have a lot, 32 items, and this is, I believe, ending on page 8. Yes, 32 items that go all the way to page 8. 33? Oh, I apologize, 33. Oh, I missed this step. 33. There's a lot. Definitely a lot. This personnel, there'll be no discussion on this. I have a motion, please, to approve the superintendent's recommendation. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Mrs. DeCarlo, can I please have a roll call regarding personnel?
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordalaru?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasini?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We have no HFB, so I move on to education. We have 4 items. Can I please have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Is there any more discussion regarding education? Okay. If not, can I please have a roll call?
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordalaru?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasini?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is special education. We have 3 items. Can I please have a motion to approve special education? Second. I didn't hear where that came from.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion regarding special education? If not, may I please have a roll call?
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordalaru?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasini?
Yes.
Mrs. Alcorn?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Our next section is administration. We have 5 items, but a lot of pages to get to the end of that. I believe it goes to page 13, the top of page 13. 6 pieces on the agenda. Any discussion regarding these items?
I just want to say that I don't envy your position, Dr. T, trying to figure out all of these details and the leadership team. I'm aware that this was not an easy decision, and I appreciate you continuing to put up with my many questions. And it's my understanding that this plan is fluid. I know how important it is to make sure the district is keeping the safety of our staff and students top priority. Thank you for all the time and effort.
Thank you.
Mrs. DeCarlo, can you just touch base on number 2, the question I had asked you earlier, I wasn't sure about the background on that?
Is that on the top of page 10?
Correct.
The joint insurance fund. Okay, so we are members of New Jersey School Insurance Fund. And what that is many school districts that get together and we all pay our premiums, but we also split the risk. So in essence, what we're doing is we're not accepting, we don't have to accept our full risk. It's spread out between all the districts that are part of the New Jersey Schools Insurance Group. So once every 3 years, they reorganize. And this is the year. So this would have been the year had we decided to come out of that school insurance group. This would have been the year we did. So we decided to stay in. I had spoken to our risk advisor and we looked at other plans. Nothing worked as well for us financially. So we decided to stay where we are for another 3 years. So what this is, it's their boilerplate language, which is basically saying we're reorganizing for another 3 years. And it will be New Jersey Schools Insurance.
Thank you, appreciate that. Our district goals will be, once approved tonight, there'll be our new goals, and that will be reflected on our agenda at the beginning of our agenda at the next board meeting. The goals, the strategic plan, are normal things that you have to do at this time of year, and on top of that, you had to come up with a pandemic plan. So I greatly appreciate the time and effort and the patience and the communication that you've had with us. I could say that I would ask you a question and you were very open and quick to respond. And I know that you've had communication with several board members and it's greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
Can I please have a motion to approve the administration?
So moved.
Second. If there's no further discussion, can I please have a roll call on administrative items?
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordaro?
Yes.
Mrs. Messick? Yes. Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasini?
Yes.
Mrs. Halborg?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next, finance. We have 5 items on this page for this section. Can I please have a motion to approve the finance recommendations?
So.
Second. Thank you. Is there any board discussion regarding finance? If not, may I please have a roll call on finance?
Okay, Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordaro?
Yes.
Mrs. Messick?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasini?
Yes.
Halborg?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you so much. Okay, the next section is policy. We did table the first piece last time, so we need to bring it back from that. It's fine by me? Okay. Yes, it's fine by me. Okay, no problem. Can I please have a motion to approve the number 1 part of policy?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion regarding the first 3 policies?
I'd just like to thank the policy committee for tabling them. I just needed more time to review them.
I do have a couple things. I see that we changed pupils to students, but in paragraph 3, they're still a pupil.
Are you looking at
2361.
Thank you. Paragraph 3, first page.
Yeah, 3rd line. The board retains the right to risk or terminate pupil access. I don't know if you want to
Got
change
it.
that to students.
Student, yes. Our thought was the student worked a little bit more nicely here.
Yeah, I saw that you changed it to the paragraph above, so.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate that.
No problem. And then my only other thing, first paragraph on that same page, the last sentence says dedicated staff. I don't know, would designated or identified be a better term? And when I think dedicated, I think someone's like, really wants to do the job, not like dedicated, like set aside. Like, I just like designated better, but.
That makes sense. So do you want to go that?
Yeah.
Designated?
Okay.
We use designate in most of the other policies.
Right, yes, we did.
That
makes sense.
And thank you for the suggestions. And just to bring to everyone's attention, many of the edits were helping us with the technology language that Dr. T and Vivars had helped out on, so that we can bring things up to speed, to where we currently are. And I know in some of the other policies, we may also have that same language, because 2361 is very similar to the two policies that go along with the teachers and the support staff as well. Anyone else in this section?
Wait, yeah, one other thing.
Okay.
Okay, looking at 5516.
Yes.
The use of electronic communication recording devices. If I read this correctly, it's kind of like, we don't want to do that. But I know, like, in the spring, we did have like instrumental and choral evaluations that the kids had to tape themselves and send it in. I could be misreading, but I just need that note.
So we have, or my understanding of the language in, it's on page 1 of 3, in the third paragraph, where it states this policy is not intended to prohibit appropriate use of electronic devices for filming or recording. So anything that would have been tied to that digital learning piece, we saw as that statement allowing to that. So it wasn't preventing the educational piece, but maybe other items that, we didn't need to have. And some of the language that was taken out, or majority of the language that was taken out, was seen as to be obsolete at this time.
Like beepers?
Yes, exactly, the beepers.
And the beeper movies.
I did too.
It's a little iffy on the bulletin boards, but that's why.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, I would take a roll call on the first piece.
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordalaru?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak? Yes. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasini?
Yes.
Albrook?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now our second group that is up for first read, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and then these are the 3321 is also acceptable use, but it's under the area of teaching staff members. This one does have regulation. We aligned it so that the distance learning pieces that were added into the prior policy, the 2361, also were similar in this policy as well, and making those updates as well to include computers, networks, or web-based. We also added in the references at the end. For, again, 3321. For 421, this was the acceptable use of computer networks, which pertains to the support staff members, very closely aligned with the teaching staff member policy. So we tried to mimic those similar edits, and we also included any references at the end. In addition, policy 3283 is also up for first read. This is electronic communication between teaching staff members and students. Additionally, we updated the language to include chat rooms, video creation, those pieces that we needed for online learning. We tried to streamline some of the language as well. For example, on page 2 of 7, it discusses some areas of inappropriate content. In number 2, we changed and removed the piece that refers to illegal gambling and other illegal activities, made it a separate item, encompassing any activities that violate district's code of conduct, local, state, or federal laws and regulations.
And in addition, there were minor edits with the term email and anything that was seen as being not necessary per the recommendation of VBARS, we also removed. There is on page 5 of 7 a component that was added in regarding distance and remote learning opportunities, and this is referring to the synchronous, which is new for us recently. In addition, there was an option that was changed on page 6 of 7 regarding parents and guardians of students and teaching staff members who are requesting an exemption from a provision regarding communication between those two when they're relatives. So that was a change as well. Similarly, in policy 4283, which is support staff members, almost identical edits have been made so that we can keep these consistent and encompass the new digital learning that's been occurring. I will continue to occur. Any questions on these?
I do. Well, first, thank you for doing like the teaching staff and support staff. I feel like I'm buying one, getting one free.
It does make it easier, yes.
I'm just gonna.
You love it, all right?
Yeah, I do. I'm just going back up on 3321 and also on 4321. First paragraph, second to last line, is that dedicated staff members?
Yes, that's the same edit. We'll do the same exact thing. Thank you. So designated. Thank you. Any other further discussion? Okay, if not, may I please have a roll call?
Mrs. Brooks?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordalaru?
Yes.
Mrs. Mezak?
Yes.
Mrs. Shields?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Thomasini?
Yes.
Mrs. Halborg?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We have old and new business. Next on the agenda, is there any board member that has old or new business?
I could have one or the other.
Kind of what I
Last Tuesday, myself and also Mrs. Shields, we are on the Copeland Reentry Committee. So I just want to, first of all, thank Mr. Ganella, Mr. Rollins, Mrs. Barcatapane. They do an excellent job. We did a nice walkthrough. The group was a little smaller this time. So I'm hoping more people come to the third one again. But it's really, really great. They take everyone's feedback, their questions. Mrs. Barcatapane types everything down and they get back to you. And the list was much smaller and they answered all of our questions from the first meeting. And I have to say, again, kudos to the administration, but also the staff here at Copeland. They're doing a phenomenal job. I walked out and I felt, well, I was yellowish green. I walked in yellow and I left more green. So it's really, really great and a tremendous job to everyone.
Yeah, it was nice. We actually saw classrooms, how they're gonna be set up. We saw, there's gonna be desks in the gym, desks spread out in the library. So it was nice to see that how we're utilizing the space.
Outside the box thinking for sure.
Thank you for acknowledging them. They've been working really hard also. Thank you.
And similarly, I really appreciated the opportunity to be a part of the DBO planning committee meetings as well, and really appreciate having the opportunity to hear the honest feedback, from the staff and the parents that are involved over there. And I appreciate very much the work that's being done. I was also at the Birchwood one, similar response experience as everyone else. Very positive. They're really on top of it. Everything is really well thought out. I know that they're trying to recruit tents over there at Birchwood to create more outside spaces, and they were really trying hard to come up with creative solutions, and they were thinking outside the box. So it was refreshing and it was calming to see everything in action.
Similarly, Katie, same thing. There were a lot of questions today at the first meeting. Second meeting was a lot of explanation, and I felt extremely comfortable after listening to Ms. Wisniewski and her explanation of everything that was going to go on. And I believe that all the parents felt the same way. Very well done.
Thank you all board members for that feedback. And just again, I continue to appreciate our school leaders. They've been doing this work for the last couple of months, and So thank you for helping me now.
Follow up on Nancy's plug. Every school is recruiting for tent donation.
Yes.
Absolutely. KDM could use 2 more, maybe 9-foot marker umbrellas as well.
Red.
Preferably red.
Anybody else? I attended the county leadership meeting last, I think it was the 20th, it was on Thursday. And, you know, the normal stuff going around the state, you know, with everybody in flux. But the guest speaker was Jeff Gale from the Director of Office of School Preparedness and Emergency Planning at the New Jersey Department of Education. He presented to all the board members across the state. He wanted to plug his advocacy towards suspending the current law right now that requires us to do the drills. And that is something that was on the mind of many people, because how do you do the drills with social distancing? And one of the things that the reason behind him wanting to suspend it right now, and he's advocating at the legislative level to get this taken care of, is so that when it's practiced, the muscle memory that goes along with it stays, and that they don't change that procedure. And so when we someday come out of this pandemic, that practice is there. So they want that what we learned before to stay and not to change. So that's currently right there. I'm hoping that we hear more from them. And when I do hear more from them, I will let you know. But that's something that, I'm thinking as an educator too, how we're going to do these things. And I know they were working on modifying certain pieces, but it's another challenge that is added to our existing challenge as is.
I have one more thing I forgot to give Mrs. DiCarlo kudos, as well as the cohesive relationship with the township. Mayor Mike Puzio and Mr. Coward from Recreation has been excellent. The DBO parking lot is being paved. I know I say it probably every meeting. I see these parking lots and I've never gotten so excited over just like black asphalt. It's just so amazing. So we appreciate the Recreation Department for bearing with us in the next 7 to 10 days and not driving on our parking lots, accessing DBO from the Peterson path. And again, recreation, football, everyone's been great. No one's moved our barriers yet. So we truly appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, that'll lead us to our second public comment section. Is there anybody in the waiting room?
There's currently one person in the waiting room from earlier. As well, there was a member of the community that was in the first session that had to leave, but he left a statement that I could read.
That'd be great.
Pull that up. The message is from John Coniglio, and it reads,
Just pause for a minute. Did I open? No, I didn't open. Let me just open to the public before we do that. I apologize. Can I open to the public? So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And show of hands. Okay, thank you. I get too excited. Gosh, so many things. Thank you, I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is John Coniglio, and I am a parent of 2 fourth graders that attend Catherine A. Dwyer Elementary School. First, I would like to thank everyone in the district leadership this summer for all your hard work and dedication, as this was a truly unique and challenging few months. I would also like to publicly say that my boys love attending school at Dwyer. They have nothing but great things to say about their teachers and their principal, and rave about how great the school is. The Dwyer staff and teachers are truly amazing. Every time I attend the school event with my boys, the principal and the teachers greet me by name, and I feel like we are all one happy family. There is a true community feeling at Dwyer, and I thank the staff and teachers there for going above and beyond and providing a nurturing environment for my boys. That is why it was such a difficult decision this summer to choose whether or not to in-person instruction was the right choice for my boys due to the fact that they love Dwyer School and the staff so very much. Despite their love for all things Dwyer, I have made the decision to have my boys learn 100% remotely this fall. The main reason that I made this difficult decision was due to the fact that in reading the reopening plan, I discovered that the boys would be eating lunch in their classrooms. In my opinion, this presents a huge risk to the health and safety of my boys, as well as the students in attendance. I would never do anything to put my boys in harm's way, even though they absolutely love attending school each and every day. If the district had decided to participate in single session days, much like neighboring towns such as Dover are doing, my decision would have most likely been different, and I would have leaned towards sending them to school for in-person learning. I am asking you to please reconsider this lunch situation as we progress throughout the early part of our school year. I understand the main challenges that the district and parents are facing due to the schedule changes that we are all so very used to. However, the safety of my children is my #1 priority, and I will find a way to make my personal schedule work in order to guarantee their safety. As a very concerned parent whose children love their school, I ask that you please reconsider having students eat lunch in their classrooms this year and discuss other alternatives. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, B. Barson. John, if you're still out there watching, I'll reach out to you tomorrow to have a more detailed conversation and just see if there are other questions that we can answer or get you any other additional information you might like to have. So I'll reach out to you tomorrow. Thank you for sharing your comment.
And I guess I can bring April back in.
Sure.
And just see if there are other questions that we can answer or get you any other additional information you might like to have.
You're on.
Hi, April Kerlock, 33 Mount Hope Road, Rockaway. I just wanted to just a couple more add-ons to this whole thing. I do share the same lunch concerns as the previous person who who expressed their concerns in the written letter. And I wanted to also convey the potential for, I myself had considered picking up my daughter, having lunch with her myself, and then sending her back to the classroom at some point. And I don't know if that's going to be something that's going to be feasible. I also have was wondering if there's a way, and I don't know if it's through Zoom, to have a Zoom tour. I would like to see the setups, the classroom, things like that as well. I know it's not a good idea to say, hey, yeah, let's have some parent tours to see how the desks are going to be set up in my child's classroom, that kind of stuff. But I'd like you to consider a way that maybe parents can, if you haven't already, be able to kind of see what their kids are going to be going into when they go into school. And, I don't know if there's a way we can arrange for that. Lastly, if we do decide to send kids more than 2 days a week, as the other guy also voiced his concern tonight, that concerns me because I am sending, my daughter, and more so tonight after listening to the plans. I still, like I said, I still have that fear and that anxiety, but being able to keep the classes small as such, and not increasing the numbers to me, it's a risk game. And I really hope that we don't get any COVID in our schools, and I hope that no one gets sick. I do think that everyone has the intention of trying to prevent anyone from being sick, but I still think minimizing contact with personnel is our best option. I also, feel that in order to minimize that, increasing the number of days would have to have, some lag time if you're going to do that, and increase it in, so that people can plan accordingly, because at that point, I may consider, pulling her from school. It's just, there's a lot of decisions to make. And I think the current plan, the kind of the snail's pace, the way that we're going at this time, is the way to go. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know on the latest, it's not very school, but on the latest video that the district posted today, you can see a classroom with the desks spread out and, it's social distance, so.
I saw that came through like late this afternoon, right? Yeah. It's on the Rockaway Township Facebook page. So if you visit that, you'll be able to take a closer look at, I believe it's KDM, but most schools are set up in a similar fashion. Okay,
Thank you.
can I, there's no more left in the, correct?
Correct.
Can I please have a motion to close public comment?
So moved. Second.
Okay, ladies, which one?
So moved.
Competition. And can I have a show of hands, please? Everybody? Okay. Well, that concludes our meeting, and the last thing we have to do is a motion to adjourn. Second. Let it be noted at 9:05 p.m. Thank you. Have a good night.